Hello and welcome to my video. Uh, if you're new here, welcome. If this is a repeat, if you're a repeat watcher, welcome back. Uh, this time around, I'm going to be doing a why I like Kamen Rider. So, every bit of me has this urge to do an umbrella topic, knowing that I'm doing this, and it's going to drive me nuts. So I'll do one later. But Kamen Rider falls under a umbrella kind of fandom called Tokusatsu. So it's masked heroes or heroes of some sort, and it can vary from one individual character to 20, 30. I've seen some series where there was maybe two like upgrade forms and then like 10, 12, 13, 15 riders. But anyway, Kamen Rider. So Kamen Rider is kind of the mature, not fully mature, but the slightly older brother of Super Sentai. So Power Rangers. With Kamen Rider, it's got some series that are more comedic and then serious, and then it's got some that are more serious with a little bit of comedy. There's some series that are just straight serious, and then some that are just straight comedy. Uh, as I've said every friggin' video, I love variety, and that definitely comes into play here as well. There's Lord knows how many series. I could go back and count them, but I'm going to be doing a breakdown of the different eras and different series in those eras. This is more so just to kind of again do an umbrella topic, right? To kind of start off, and then once I dive more into it, I'll let my audience figure out if they want to continue watching the more umbrella stuff or the more specific things. So, why I like Kamen Rider? Between the various generations and designs, there's always a little bit of a change. There's side stories, there's movies that have exclusive forms for these movies or tie ins to other parts of the series, or even with crossovers to like the Metal Hero series or to Super Sentai. Uh, with that, they also do stage shows. They do TV specials. They have games. It's it's a giant, wonderful form of entertainment from Japan that I personally love, and I think it's just a fun, more mature way of going into uh, kind of telling these stories of heroes going through a more traditional form of storytelling, which is you have a hero, you have an enemy, you have this hill to get over to face this enemy. Once you face this enemy, you face another problem of, well, here's this new, stronger enemy. You have to kind of have these learning lessons as you go through the series. And seeing character growth through that storytelling is always fun, which is why the different forms of Kamen Riders comes into play. Is they're meant to be a kind of a symbol of a growth or a change, right? If I were to kind of relate this to my life experience, it's say me going from working as a civilian to going into the military. There's certain level of growth that was required for me to make it into the military. I had to learn to work as a team and not with a team. The the semantics of that phrasing is rather than me being an individual, I was a part of a greater whole, right? If I go into an office, I can be me. However, if I work in a group setting office, I have to work with two, three, six, 10 other people. And that's kind of what this is it shows that those different growths, the trust, the distrust, the there's some storylines of different characters getting greedy and wanting more, and that variety of storytelling definitely helps me stick to enjoying the series, even if the characters are more cartoony or a little too mature for what the series is. It's definitely something that sticks with me. Now, to kind of highlight one of my favorite series from Kamen Rider is I'm going to go on a bit of a ramble here, and I hope you're willing to listen to me through this ramble. So there's a series called Kamen Rider Kiva. So it's a vampire themed series where the art style when enemies are defeated are it looks like stained glass, and his finishing move leaves a stained glass like imprint on the ground that, well, it doesn't leave it appears temporarily, but more so it's the theme of the stained glass that goes with him defeating these enemies. I thought it was a cool aspect. Now he does have different forms and works with different creatures that add to his form, and I think that's a pretty cool thing too. So I'll highlight that too. But we get to see kind of a family lineage connection in this, as well as enemies, almost like a destiny kind of, like, oh, you're meant to do this, or you're meant to be that, or you're king of this or that, and he just wants to live life in his own way while ensuring that his own species is being more symbiotic rather than just a um, how to phrase this. The Fangires are a more predatory species. They consume, and he wants them to live a more symbiotic life rather than just an all-consuming or all um, rather than just being these hungry animals, right? And the way the story is told throughout the episodes, I thought it was a beautiful way of kind of showing, one, the distinction between different characteristics of these creatures, and two, the more themed, like, different predator styles. So if it's a spider, they use like different traps or they hunt. If it's more along different species, the characteristics that follow with that as they show these enemies, it's that neat little attention to detail that a lot of people miss, and I think it's pretty cool. Now, the actual design of Kamen Rider Kiva, it being based off of vampires, his primary motif is that of a bat. Uh, I love it. I think it's cool as all can be, and when we get to see the other characters in the series, there's some that are more based off of bats that are Kamen Riders, and then there are some that are more based off of like a technology. So, like hunting down these creatures, so they look more robotic in nature and in transformation. And I think it's a cool distinction between the two, but still connects them together as these different Kamen Rider styles, right? So that's just one of them. And again, I'll highlight more as I get into specific series. But with that, I think that's just one highlight. each series has their own different kind of gimmicks for how they transform. Or if you're a real crazy goofball like me, I love hearing the term henshin. It's transform. Uh, but when they henshin or they transform, they have their different means of transforming. So there's one based off of coins. There's one that's based off of, they're called Gaia memories, which look like giant USB sticks. Uh, there's one that's kind of based off of alchemy. So you'll see them put in like these little bottles that have different aspects to them. Um, there's one that's they're I think they're called lock seeds. It's a fruit based one where the shape of the fruit comes down over the head and shoulders and then becomes the armor for the character. So there's quite a bit of variety. There is quite a bit of give and take with how you see the different stories unfold for each series. And I think it's just a fun, crazy mess. And I'm looking forward to highlighting the different series and the different characters designs in the series. I'm not going to go into stories much more than what I just did because again, I don't like giving spoilers. I want to encourage people to watch this form of media, but I want to highlight specific parts of the media that stick out to me, right? With that being said, I look forward to discussing the designs, discussing the stories a little bit more, and I look forward to really kind of diving in a little bit more. It's been a while since I've watched Kamen Rider, so this kind of gives me a reason to go back and kind of enjoy the series as a whole again. And with that, I just want to say thank you. If you like my nonsensical ramblings or want me to cover any sort of other topics or any franchises, please feel free to let me know. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a more umbrella term tokusatsu video down the line, along with covering Metal Heroes and some Super Sentai. I'm not as huge on the Super Sentai designs for the suits more than I am the mecha that come with Super Sentai. So who knows? Maybe I'll go into the story a little bit. It all depends. But with that, please feel free to leave a like if you like the video. If there's something you want me to cover, leave a comment. And again, any sort of feedback, any engagement helps me grow. And I want to connect all the people who like different series or different franchises and don't really have that time to dedicate. And I want them to be able to find these things a lot easier. And that's my long-term goal, is to have a site that does that. I know there's a site that kind of covers it, but I think breaking it down in a way that works the way I do would help others who are like me, who go, ooh, shiny, and when they find a particular topic that they really like, they can delve more into those other topics or those other series under that topic, right? So, with that, thank you. Bye.